Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Unrestricted Sports. Today, we are talking about a very interesting topic for me, and it's one that I think a lot of people around the league are interested in, and that is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And some of the things that are coming out of their training camp, if they're to be believed, make the Bucs an incredibly scary team this year. And before we get into that, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. It does help out the channel a lot. And now I'm going to get right into it because obviously I'm very intrigued by the Bucs this year. Being a Patriots fan, just out of my own, sadness that he's no longer with the Patriots. However, it is a very interesting thing to see that we've seen some of the throws that he's been making, and the Bucs have been putting out videos. The NFL's been putting out videos because obviously it's a very big deal, and a lot of people are interested in that. And there's a lot of revenue to be had in profiting off of that. That being said, reporters who are at these practices, obviously in sparse capacity and spaced out and everything. I mean, usually they're spaced out anyway because they don't want people to get the scoop on what they're writing. But all of the reporters who have been at the Bucs camps have said the same thing, and it's pretty interesting. They've said that Tom Brady's deep ball and that all of his passes have been incredibly accurate, that he's thrown the ball in the same place every single time. One guy said that he was looking at the same spot, the whole time they were practicing for a specific type of play, and every single play Brady put it in the exact same spot. So if that's to be believed, Brady is accurate and he is throwing deep, which there's also stats to back up that when Tom Brady throws it deep, he can throw it deep and he can do so accurately. Okay, this notion is incorrect that he can't throw it deep.
Yeah, it's not a new thing. It's not like in New England he wasn't throwing the deep ball. The system called for less deep ball passes based on the receivers he was throwing to. I mean, how often can you throw a deep ball to Josh Gordon, Philip Dorsett, and Julian Edelman?
Exactly. And the last time the Patriots really had a deep threat wide receiver system
Randy Moss
was back in 2007 with Randy Moss. Exactly. And Brady was unanimously the best quarterback to ever do it to that point because he threw 50 touchdowns, later to be beaten by Peyton Manning. But Manning it was 50 touchdowns, right? Or was it 45? It was something like that.
I forget.
At the time, it was the QB record for touchdowns in a season. Him and Manning went back and forth on that for a number of years. But with that being said, even post 2007, Brady's deep ball has always been statistically one of the best in the league. This notion that he isn't a deep passer because he doesn't do it very often is just inaccurate. And that's not to be a play on words here. Brady is incredibly accurate downfield. He has one of the best deep throws in the league when he does it. It's just that in New England, he doesn't have an opportunity to do that because is Julian Edelman going to go deep? No. Is Philip Dorsett going to go deep? Rarely. Is 38-year-old Ben Watson going to do it? No. And that's basically what he's been working with for the past few years. And it got even worse this year to the point where he'd said, you know what, I'm leaving. Which, I mean, I don't know how you can expect that not to happen. You can't have a generationally great quarterback like Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers and then not give them weapons. It's just, it's embarrassing. And I know that New England's going to figure something out with that, and I know that they have a plan, but it just feels wrong to me. It's like when MJ left the Bulls and the Bulls rebuilt for the next until my lifetime. Until now, they're still rebuilding because it just never got done. It never stopped rebuilding, and that's what it feels like with Brady leaving the Patriots.
What I think is kind of backtracking to this whole Bucs being in awe of Tom Brady's abilities at his age is LaShawn McCoy, their recent running back signing, noted and said that players are whispering to each other, obviously, because they're in camp, and they're asking how many years Tom Brady's still going to play. I don't know if that's because he looks super young while he's throwing the ball, or he's so good that people are like, holy shit, is he only going to play 2 years and then leave?
Yeah, and there's going to be people who say, oh, you're taking his quote out of context. No, we're not. His quote, LaShawn McCoy's full quote was that people were whispering about how is he going to retire after 2 years because of how good he was playing, not because they weren't just whispering how long until he retires. We got to get rid of this guy. No, that's not what they were whispering about. They were whispering about that because of how good he was playing, because of how accurate he was passing, because of how motivated and moving he was and how he's trying to get the team ready to go in a bad scenario for a team that's trying to get a new quarterback. The players have already rallied around him. You listen to the audio, listen to the background of the audio that the Bucs are putting out. You can barely hear it, but you can hear guys going, "Oh wow, good pat," saying all these things, and they're you can hear that it's legitimate. Okay, this isn't like when the Bears put out a sad video of Mitchell Trubisky throwing passes. Okay, this is like guys are in awe of what they are seeing, and I've seen the passes that he's been making. The videos get released. He is dead accurate. He's hitting dudes in the hands deep. Okay, and he's doing so with, guess what? Less than 4 seconds, which was the big thing. Oh, is there going to be enough time in the pocket? Guys, Tom Brady has always been good in the pocket, regardless of how much time he has. I don't care about what you say. Oh, it looks like he lost a step in the pocket. Yeah, you would too if 3 of your offensive linemen were out. Okay? No one is going. Brady isn't going to just stand in there and take a sack at 43 years old because his old line's all shot. Okay? The Bucs aren't going to have that problem this year.
Yeah, I don't know how this whole notion of this Tom Brady leaving New England is going to decline started, because there weren't really any indications of it in New England. Obviously, like we've mentioned 1,000 times, his wide receiver core and targets weren't as good. But I mean, like, I'm gonna be scared of Tom Brady in Tampa Bay until he looks like
garbage.
Until he looks horrible. I mean, even if he has one bad game, I'm still gonna be. Trust me, as a Bears fan, when week 5 or 6 comes around, whenever we play them, I'm shitting my pants. He has 3 tight end targets who are 3 of the top tight ends in the league, and then 2 of the best wide receivers in the league, probably arguably top 15.
By far the best duo of wide receivers in the league.
Agreed.
Combine that with the running back by committee. They have a group of experienced guys in that committee along with rookie guys. They're training up the rookie guys with veteran guys who have been around the league, who have won Super Bowls, with LaShawn McCoy. And people forget, LaShawn McCoy was having a really good season last year until the Chiefs decided, you know what, Damian Williams is the future, and moved to him. He was having a really good season before that. So the notion that McCoy is washed up, listen, this team is full of people who are being called washed up, too old, and bad at the game, when that is clearly not the case because it was clearly situational. All right? Brady, people are probably saying, oh, well, he still looked bad. No, let me put into perspective how bad Tom Brady's receivers were. On passing chances, he had the worst passing chance in the league at almost a whole negative point for passing. All right, for those of you who don't know, that's from a fantasy website that I'll link down below so you guys can see it. But almost a full point for passing opportunities was removed because of how bad New England's wide receivers and receiving targets were. If you think that this team is going to do this worse or the same under Brady than it did under Jameis Winston, who threw 30 interceptions, then I don't know what to say to you. You can't win games when your quarterback throws 30 interceptions. You know how many interceptions Brady threw last year? It was like 11. And one of those was like a crap interception that got tipped up by his own wide receivers. So let's be real here. Brady hasn't lost a step. He's been working with subpar talent for some time now. The fact that he managed to win 2018 Super Bowl with the talent that he had after Josh Gordon got suspended is impressive enough. So stop this notion that Brady isn't going to do well. It's not going to happen. And then you have guys in the Saints organization who apparently haven't gotten the happens give Tom Brady bulletin board material. Cam Jordan's one of them, but there have been multiple defensive Saints players who've said, oh, we got to see it on paper. Well, these guys put it on paper on you last year, and that's when they had a subpar quarterback. Godwin and Evans both lit up the Saints defense when they played them. Okay? So they've put it on paper, and now they have a better quarterback thrown to them. You're not going to get 6 easy interceptions this year. Okay? It's not going to happen. You're playing a better quarterback who has his favorite tight end, along with 2 other elite tight ends, along with 2 elite wide receivers, and a monster of a man in Tristan Wirfs protecting Tom Brady's blind side.
And there's only so many slants that Drew Brees could throw to Michael Thomas. I mean, this Buccaneers defense wasn't a joke.
For all of the talk that Saints fans do about why Drew Brees is the GOAT, they always bring up, oh, Drew Brees can throw it deep. Well, yeah, Drew Brees does have a good deep ball. I won't dispute that. Do I think that makes him the GOAT? No. Do I think the fact that it's a little ironic that Drew Brees threw a shit ton of slants to Michael Thomas last year, and Saints fans don't seem to think that makes Drew Brees a bad quarterback or a system quarterback a little ironic? Yeah, it's a little ironic. And the Saints organization really needs to crack down on their defensive players talking crap about the Bucs, because Tom Brady is the master manipulator when it comes to creating propaganda material to motivate the team. All right, he created the underdog mentality for that 2018 Super Bowl run when everyone, I mean, people were doubting them, but nowhere to the point where they were being overwhelmingly chosen against. He turned it into something that it wasn't. Now you're giving him actual bulletin board material, concrete words that you've said. You've called him the second best, despite the fact that Drew Brees' one Super Bowl came from Bountygate, okay, a proven scandal, and possibly the most disgusting one, because you're ending guys' careers and putting them in harm's way. And you're calling him the GOAT over Brady, who's won 6 Super Bowls legitimately? Let's be real here, guys. Drew Brees isn't the GOAT. His stats are good. Yes, no one is debating that. But stats don't make people great. People don't say, oh, he had really good stats, he's the greatest of all time. They say, he accomplished. What did you accomplish? It's not about your stats, it's about what you accomplished. No one cares about the fact that you have a ton of yards and a ton of touchdowns. You're barely beating out Brady in those categories. He could probably pass you this year if he has a blow-up season. It's ridiculous to say that someone who has better stats is better than someone who's more successful. If you're padding that's a clear indication that you're just padding your stats. And when you throw in playoff touchdowns and yards, Brady beats Drew Brees by a mile. Because total yards, the yards and touchdowns that they're talking about, that only includes regular season. It doesn't include postseason. If you include postseason, no one is close to Brady with touchdowns and reception yards. Not even close. Or passing yards, I should say.
Yeah.
It's not even close. So don't make this narrative that better stats make someone the GOAT. And if you're a defensive player, don't bring up your quarterback in that. You brought up your quarterback and said he's the greatest of all time. Tom Brady's the second greatest. There's no grounds for that. The next closest guy for GOAT is Peyton Manning. Okay? Peyton Manning is the next closest GOAT, not Drew Brees. It's ridiculous. It's really ridiculous that I mean, I guess it's good for the Bucs, but it's ridiculous that the Saints organization is allowing their defensive players to make these statements. Have they not seen what's happened across the league time and time again when people say something about Brady or his team? He turns it into a steamroll campaign. Okay? It's I don't get it. Nolan, do you have anything to add to that before I continue?
Not really. I mean, you've pretty much covered most of it. I mean, listen, there's a difference between sleeping on a quarterback, like most people are doing with this Buccaneers team, and actually knowing that quarterback isn't going to do well. And there's zero evidence. Like, even a majority of the arguments against it are probably going to be age. There's no evidence to even support that it's going to slow him down in the slightest.
If you look at Tom Brady and what he's done at his age, it's unprecedented. If you look at how he's working out like he is a 20-some-year-old man. He is doing things that I cannot do, okay? And people are calling him washed up and too old to play and afraid to take a hit. Did anyone else miss his running play last year where he laid a guy out for a block? That's not something that an old guy who can't play anymore does. That's a team player right there who's willing to put his body on the line for his teammates. He hasn't lost a step. He's become more insatiable in his desire to win another Super Bowl because you have continuously given him more wallpaper material to put up in that Bucs locker room. And the simple fact of the matter is that the Saints are being incredibly stupid here. incredibly.
The Saints are just adding fuel to a fire that was already going to burn down New Orleans.
Yeah, and here's an additional thing. People are saying, "Oh, well, this Bucs team is going to go 8-8." The Bucs went 7-9 last year with their quarterback has 30 interceptions. Brady is by far better than Jameis Winston, especially when he has talent around him.
Here, I think this is a good perspective on it. And I know people have probably said this or at least thought about it, but if the Buccaneers had Jameis Winston in that system again, granted they had the same draft and everything, so the only thing that matters is there's no Gronk and there's no Tom Brady, and say all you have is Jameis Winston, I still think they would have a very good shot of beating out the Saints.
Yeah, they almost beat the Saints. I think didn't they beat the Saints once last year?
Yeah, they beat the Saints once last year. I'm almost
exactly
sure.
The Saints have already been beaten by this Bucs team, and now they have an improved quarterback and another tight end.
And if you don't think that this O.J. Howard and Cameron Brate tight end conundrum of which one's going to be the starter, which one's better,
you can have a 3 tight end set out there as well as Godwin and Evans.
Not only that, but you don't think that A, they're a little fired up to become better receiving tight ends, and B, are learning from Rob Gronkowski at least a little bit.
And C, have a chance to win a Super Bowl. Okay? So, back to my original point. If last year's team went 7-9 with a terrible quarterback, because that's what Jameis was. I don't care about his touchdowns and yards. If you throw 30 interceptions, you are terrible. Okay? You're putting your team at more of harm's way. Most games were lost because of Jameis Winston's interceptions. That's the simple fact. So this team went 7-9 last year. This team is not going to go worse than 7-9. Are you saying this team is only going to improve by 1 game? No, that's ridiculous. We all know this team is not going to improve by only 1 game. They have a quarterback who is going to throw sub 15 interceptions, almost guaranteed, because his worst year, I think, was 15, and that was his rookie year. So being real here, guys, let's be real. This team is primed for at least 10 wins. And they could very easily go more than that. I'm just saying 10 to be conservative. I have this team potentially going undefeated if they can beat the Saints twice. This team also has not the hardest schedule in the league. It's about middle of the pack, I would say. They get to play the Lions, so I mean that's an easy win right there. I hate to say it, but it's true. I mean, this team lost by a very small margin in most of their games last year. And guess what happened in most of those games? Jameis threw a pick 6, or he threw picks that put them on the 10, 20-yard line in their red zone. This team is good. This defense is top 5. This offense has the potential to be number 1. To say that means that they're going to be second in the division, that's not even being smart with your comments. I could see it if Cam Jordan gave them bulletin board material that was at least based in the realm of possibility. But come on, Jordan. We all know what's really happening here. They're not competing for second place in this division. They are competing for first place, and you know it, and that's why you're so insecure and why you had to go out and say this. Except in this case, it's going to come back to bite you in the ass because guess what? Tristan Wirfs, the guy who jumped out of a deep end of a pool and is a complete monster, okay? This guy is a monster. Guess what he said right after you said that? Oh yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting to play on the offensive line, get to play against really great guys like Cam Jordan. Now, if you didn't know about Cam Jordan, you would think that was just a good compliment. No. That's Tristan Wirfs saying, pair me up against this guy. He's taking shots at my QB. I want to take a shot at him. That's what's going on here. So the propaganda machine's already started. You can't undo what's been done. Multiple Saints players have clearly voiced their opinion, and they're all on the defensive side of the ball. And let's be honest here, guys. The Saints' offense isn't as good as their defense.
Yeah.
And their offense is the Saints' defense is by far worse than their offense, and the Saints' offense is by far worse than the Bucs, is what I meant to say.
Yeah.
Like, let's be real here. The Saints aren't a defensive team; they're an offensive team. But the Bucs have better offensive weapons. I don't care who's throwing the football. Jameis Winston was able to beat you once, and he threw 30 interceptions in the season.
Just for clarification, the Buccaneers didn't beat the Saints last season.
Oh,
they were close games both times.
Yeah, exactly
But
my point.
In other games that season, they demolished the Rams, brought the Seahawks to overtime, beat the Colts, lost to the Texans by a field goal. Like,
These
A
games were
bunch of close
incredibly
games.
close. These games were incredibly close.
And their team
Okay?
only got better.
Exactly. Don't be one of these people who says, "Oh, Jameis was better than Tom Brady in the long term." No, he wasn't. Jameis hasn't developed in years. The guy has had decision-making issues for his whole time in the league. Not to mention his crab leg stealing fiasco that he had, which is just ridiculous. I mean, come on, dude. You really think that some guy's gonna let you walk off with $30 of crab legs and be fine with it? No, come on, dude. Be realistic here. So don't tell me that Jameis is somehow better than Tom Brady, because he isn't. All right, you're cherry picking Jameis Winston's best stats in passing yards and touchdowns in an attempt to make him look so much better than Tom Brady, without mentioning the fact that Brady was working with nothing compared to Jameis's weapons. First of all, and secondly, that Jameis threw 30 interceptions.
Yeah.
30, 3 times the amount Brady did. This team would not have lost that many games last year if it hadn't been for Jameis's interceptions. And that's a simple fact. When the games are coming down to overtime play, touchdown or less scores, it's clear and obvious what's going on. That's a pick six. That's a interception. It's quarterback play. And that's not even mentioning Jameis's fumbles. Jameis fumbled the ball a lot too. So, I don't know. Maybe I'm being overly optimistic here for the Bucs, but I don't see how they're not competing for first place, Jordan, because clearly they are, and you're clearly concerned about it, because otherwise you wouldn't come out and make these comments.
Yeah.
But Nolan, do you have anything else to add?
No, I mean, listen, I'm all for being confident in your own team.
But there's a difference between that and putting a
but painting a bullseye on the back of my head
Yeah.
and saying, "No, I'm the best. I'm better than you," specifically to Tom Brady of all people,
is not a good move.
it's not a smart move. I give all the props to Cam Jordan for having confidence in the Saints roster.
But to say that out loud,
out loud and to fuel, like I
Dumb
said,
move.
fuel that fire, it was a pretty dumb move.
Yeah. So I think the Saints are going to have a pretty rude awakening this year. Bucs obviously play Saints week 1. Bucs obviously have a slight disadvantage there because of the fact that there was no preseason, none of that. But Tristan Wirfs is feeling pretty positive about it. He's actually saying that he thinks he's fine because college kids don't really have preseason games. They just have preseason training camps like what they're doing right now.
Yeah.
So that is true. College kids do that all the time. NFL should be no different. They're better players. They're older players. They should be able to get into the groove faster too. If college kids can do it, they can do it.
Yeah,
it's not an excuse.
I guess it is a good point to just kind of talk about this, unrelated to the Bucs, but in terms of no preseason games, I seriously, the only disadvantage to it is just some of these undrafted rookies.
Yeah. The disadvantage isn't
with the actual players that are on the rosters. It's the players that are trying to, be the 51st, 52nd, and 53rd guys on the rosters. Like the undrafted superstars that can happen might not happen out of this draft class.
Yeah, that's the main thing here. So if the Saints lose week 1, don't blame it on the preseason camps, because the Saints weren't working with a new quarterback and new tight end and a whole new way of doing things. So obviously the Bucs have a slight disadvantage there. I think it's not very big, and I personally, I think the Bucs are going to take this material and they're going to be amped to play the Saints in week 1.
Yeah.
They're going to be absolutely amped because they've just been told, yeah, you're competing for second place. We don't think you're good.
Yep.
You nearly beat us both games last year, but we don't think you're very good. Even though they've improved massively.
Yeah.
So
shocking.
That we're definitely going to be watching that game and breaking it down on a live stream. So be sure to tune in for that. We'll probably have a post out about it. But that is going to be the end of this video, guys. I think we pretty much conveyed the point here. And I think we're all going to see it pretty soon. And I think it's going to shock some of you who think that I'm absolutely crazy right now. But with that being said, guys, like I said at the beginning of the video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. It helps out the channel a lot. And I will see you guys next time.